Looplings, and welcome back to the Loopy Homestead. We're in our greenhouse today. As you can see, kind of messy after last year's growing season, but we've got some work to do out here, including a little change up of our water system. So we will talk about what we're going to do and work from there. So in our greenhouse, there is a watering system that I installed the year that we put it up. It is some distribution lines with some nozzles that spray really nice. It makes a nice misting throughout here so that our plants get watered in a timely manner without becoming overwatered. Or similarly, if we happen to forget to come out here one day because we're busy, we know that they've at least gotten something. Above me here, you'll see also I have grow lights hung. These are on a timer. And then I'm not sure if you can quite see them. There's one back there behind Mom and one in front of me, one at the other end. We've got heat lamps that'll come on in the cold months to warm up the greenhouse in the evening. So these things all work on timers in conjunction with each other. The grow lights will come on for a little bit at night, then they turn off. The heat lamps come on for a little bit in the coldest hours of the night, and then they turn off. And by the morning, after the electrical has cooled down and all that, then these will come on for just a little bit, enough to give the plants a slight misting, and then they too will turn off. You've seen that we have chickens and we have pigs and we run businesses and we do other things. This is just one other way to keep things kind of quote unquote automated, so that way we're not getting too busy and forgetting about stuff. Our greenhouse is also equipped with window things. They're harder to see probably in the video. There's one here. There's one here. These are heat adjusted. They've just got wax in these black pieces here. So when the day warms up and as these heat up, they shoot the rod out a bit, and it causes our greenhouse windows to open automatically also, which is really nice. It means that our greenhouse is self-venting. I believe these we might have gotten off Amazon. Really, really handy if you're like us and you get busy. You don't want your plants to croak in the heat of it all. So when I originally set up these waterers, my top ones I was able to do around this upper rail. But because there's nothing else to mount outward on, I was forced to mount our lower ones down to this bottom rail over here and on the other side. It meant that really the water was pretty much going to the walls, not necessarily to the plants. So we have these metal shelves here that we were repurposing in the greenhouse again. We tried to fit them along the wall last year to make them work, but it just didn't. So this year we're moving them out so that these spray a little more towards the middle of them. And what I'm going to do, I've started it here, is I'm going to run a line that's probably a bit harder to see here. I'll show you a close-up in a second, but a line that attaches to these and runs along the center with the sprayers down here. So that way our bottom shelf will get the same amount of misting. And, you know, that way we're not having things that are getting missed. So what I've done is I've taken some more of our distribution piping, and you notice up here I've got very long ones. That is so that they hang far enough below this electrical. But the other ones, I need them to be short, so they're nice and far above our bottom plants. And that's why I've got these. So I'm going to take the line that used to run along the wall. I'm going to cut it down. I'm going to reattach these, and then I'm going to zip tie it to here just like I did on this side. I've got one end left to finish here. So I will actually bring you down so you can see me put that on. I've got my end here. I'm just going to take my T.
Yeah, I know it's like a hardwood cloth.
And slide it in. Now my end is open here. So what I will also have to do is get another piece of line. And the stuff I'm using at the moment is by a company called Orbit. My original sprayers that are orange here, I believe I got from a company on Amazon. If I can remember where I got them, I will post a link for that down below. But some of these I was able to get through a local kind of farm supply company, sort of like Tractor Supply, but it's in our area. It's called North 40. They had a bunch of this stuff. But I believe also Home Depot carries stuff. It'll be in their garden irrigation section. And it's just a little bit of distribution tubing and different sprayers. You can get sprayers that'll spray in a 360 pattern, ones that'll just drip on your plants, others that will do more of a mist like what we've got. So there are lots of different options. And that is generally separate from their garden section. So that's this one side here. I am going to start working on the other side now, but I would also like to show you how this all kind of hooks up for the water to join us. So if Mom will step aside just slightly.
Get this way.
Okay. It's at the back of my area here. We have a hose that comes up underneath of our greenhouse. I have it zip tied to the frame here just so it doesn't really go anywhere. And then I have it come up. There's a Y. Originally, it just came straight up into this upper one here, and it originally ran along my top, and then my top also had lines that dropped down, and it ran backwards along my bottom, but it just seemed like at that length, by the time it got back here, wasn't doing much. So I decided the best option, especially since I was going to connect it to these, was to actually do a Y right here. One of them goes to my upper line, the other will go to my bottom line. I already have it hooked up here for this bottom side. I just still have to connect a line from right here to go to this other one. So I am about ready to start taking apart what I need to on this one. Because of where they were put earlier, they are much farther apart on the bottom line than they were on my top one. So I am basically deconstructing this and reconstructing them to be closer together like my upper ones are. Have my pieces reconnected here. Now we're just going to kind of string them up through this a little bit, and I'm going to get them connected over to my piece here, and we'll get them strung up. So some of these are kind of hanging a little funky right now. They have spent a winter time sort of crammed up into packages. So as the heat actually gets into this greenhouse, they will begin to kind of lengthen and stretch, just like these have, to hang a little bit more straight. Now my next thing is I'm going to have to come back here to this side and get this hooked up into my primary line. I can have my last zip tie. What did I do with that? Just kind of tie it up to the end of the rack here. Okay, so here's a little bit more of a close-up of my situation here. I've had to turn this around because when I had it facing the other way, it was actually putting a kink right here in my line. And of course, if I've got a kink, I'm not going to get any water. So there's that. This one runs up to the upper one. This one runs up to the lower one. My Y here has individual shutoffs in case I need them. And then the rest of my hose comes down. Again, these are my little water mister things. I can tighten them or loosen them based on how much spray I want to come out. So the bottoms will work the same way. So I will take you out to see what our timer looks like. I just kind of give you a quick little, here's what this thing is in case you're interested in getting one that is Bluetooth connectable. We did get ours at Home Depot probably a year or two ago. So I imagine that they would probably still have them. Last year when we put the greenhouse up, we also installed this frost-free hydrant. This allowed us to have water right next to the greenhouse to facilitate the watering system that we wanted to install. Being as we were going to move our planter boxes, it'll also help provide us really close water to our garden instead of, stringing 3 hoses across the yard. I picked up from Home Depot this item here. It's called Beehive. It's by a company called Beehive. It is an automatic water system, but it's a little different in a couple ways. You can set, your clock time, your start time, how often, how long, right on this thing. But you know me, I'm kind of a tech nerd, and so I really like the fact that this was Wi-Fi compatible also. So I can actually set all kinds of crazy different watering timers on it. I can have it water for 30 seconds, 30 minutes, however long that I want it to, however many times during the day. It's really, really convenient for that, and I think that's why it's a great choice for our greenhouse. When the plants are young, they're only going to need a light misting for a little bit. As they get bigger, they will need a little more, and it allows us to adjust for that at each growing stage. Furthermore, if we had this same thing hooked up for an automatic water system for our outdoor plants, we can actually set it up through the app to pay attention to the weather forecast. So if it's going to rain that day, it won't water. Really, really smart that way. If you like the idea of that, I would highly recommend it. We're really happy with it. But right now, what I'm going to go ahead and do is just run the test cycle on this, and I'll be able to see how it's doing in the greenhouse.
So we also, for watering, have this handy little tool. It's really cool because it has a little pump up for pressure. And all you got to do is that. You can mist your plants. It works really nicely. And we did get a few tomatoes in already. So when we test the water, it'll be nice to make sure that it's watering this area nicely along here. And then we can go and get our other seeds in the soil as well. Get them ready so we can get our garden going for the year.
Alrighty, so I'm going to turn the water system on to test it, and we'll see how it looks.
Oh, there they go. Ooh, that's a lot.
Okay, so it looks like we have some to adjust. And this is why we do the test run before we just set it and forget it for the year. I have gone back through. All of these seem to be missing really well. We think probably about a minute in the morning is going to be sufficient. We will check them later on in the day to make sure that that wasn't too much or too little. But for now, we will stop our test because I think everything is exactly where it needs to be. So guys, now that my water system has been reassembled in a way that's better for what our needs are, I have one last thing to do, and that is to get this set up. Pick this up at Home Depot. It is a timer, but this one is a wireless, can be used with Wi-Fi or Alexa timer. I can control them individually. It is by the company Defiant. This will allow me to put everything on their individual timers so that my grow lights will come on when I want them to, my heat lamps will come on when I want them to and turn off when I want them to, and then the water timer will run the rest. So that'll mean that pretty much a good deal of this whole greenhouse will be fairly automated all on its own. Okie doke. I have my wiring set up here. Had to change a few things with how it's hung because I ended up being a little too short with my cord that runs my grow lights. And so I had to undo some things I had done previously and redo them. But as of now, it should mean that when I have my timers set, my heat lamps should come on when they need to. And my grow lights should come on when they need to. And when I want them to turn off, they will do so. So all I have to do is go into the app for this and set up all my times, and they should work just right. And perhaps I will take you out when they go to turn on this evening so you can see that as well. I'm out here in the greenhouse, and it's just about 9 o'clock. Pretty close to it anyway. And my heat lamps have been on for a couple of hours. Oh, and right now it's 9 o'clock. My grow lights have officially come on. So I just wanted to show you guys how our timer was working. They're pretty bright in the video here, but as you can see, they're giving what our plants will need for a couple extra hours of daylight for growth. And then at about midnight, they will all turn off. Well, the heat lamps will stay on until early next morning, but the grow lights will turn off until tomorrow. So that's it for today. Our water system is finished. It's taken us a couple of days to get it done, but it's done. Thanks for joining us back on the Loopy Homestead. If you'd like to stay in the loop, please subscribe to our videos. And if you'd like to help us find more looplings like you, please like and share them. See you next time. Now I'm damp.